Ready to collapse time, crush limitations, and turn potential into reality? This is a journey through real lessons from those who've walked the path before you. Welcome to Layers of Leadership, hosted by Dr. Michael Marion Jr.
Welcome to Layers of Leadership. My name is Dr. Michael Marion, and I have the honor and pleasure to have a friend, Chief Daniel Hahn, with me today. Welcome to Layers of Leadership podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
34 years in law enforcement. You were the first African-American police chief in the city of Roseville and Sacramento?
Yeah, and the first black officer, period, in Roseville.
Oh, the first black officer, period?
Yeah, it's hard to believe in 2011.
That's wild. Originally born in Oak Park?
Well, I was born at Mercy Hospital, but I grew up in Oak Park, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Adopted?
Yes, at 3 months old.
At 3 months old. Definitely want to get into that. Then went on, after growing up in Oak Park, went on to get your associate's degree from American River College.
Sac City.
Sac City?
Yeah.
Okay, Sac City. You worked at American River College.
I worked at American River,
There it is,
yeah.
Where you were the vice president of public safety over there.
I was dean at American River and then vice president of security at the Kings.
Okay, what haven't you done?
I feel like there's a lot left to do. I don't know. I always was kind of taught by my mom, you're where you're supposed to be at all times. So
There we go.
it's just our job to figure out why we're supposed to be there when we don't feel like we're where we're at.
Yes. You received your bachelor's degree in business administration from Sac State.
Yes.
And then went on to get your master's degree in public administration.
Yes.
Married for how many years?
Oh, man, since 2003, however many years that is.
Since 2003, there it is. 2 amazing daughters that are doing great stuff right now. You are, you living the life, but you've been through some stuff.
I have, but as long as my girls are doing okay, then I'm doing okay.
That's what I'm talking about. Well, once again, it's an honor and pleasure to have you on Layers of Leadership, and I'm looking forward to just diving in and having some great conversations. But first, I need to thank you for your support of me and being able to start my podcast, Layers of Leadership.
Well, this is exciting that you have started it. So, some people talk and don't get anything done. Man, as soon as you asked and I introduced you, it felt like next week you had a podcast. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
That's what it felt like, but I really appreciate it. We had a great conversation in Oak Park, and we sat down and you kind of gave me all the game and the layout to how this thing works. And it's something I wanted to do for a long time. And the fact that you were, gracious enough to really sit with me and have some conversation and lay out the red carpet on how this stuff works, I greatly appreciate that.
Well, I think that's what it's about. If you have the connections, if you have the contacts, you got to share them with people that want to do good things. So
there we
that's
go.
what it's about.
And so you just launched your second season of your podcast?
Second season. First season was maybe about a year and a half. It wasn't a little more than a year, but yeah, second season.
So how is that going?
I think it's going good. I think we get better as we go along. I feel like I've gotten more comfortable. I don't even know if I ever listened to a podcast before I started mine. So I was fortunate to know Jesse, who knew how everything worked. So,
yeah. He knows how to get it done. And so in this year and a half or 2 years that you've been doing this, I'm interested to hear a little bit about what's been some of the highlights for you in the podcast space. Who were some of the memorable interviews you've done?
Yeah, I think the highlight, I would say, is the whole purpose we started it was really, it's called The Way Forward. So it's really all about listening to people with real experience, lived experience, people that actually know what they're talking about as opposed to just reading it in a book or something like that. Essentially voices that don't normally get heard. And that way we provide information to the public. And I don't insert my opinion a lot because I want them to hear from the experts. And then they can make better informed decisions of how we make tomorrow better. So I would say the highlight is really getting people that I don't think the public at large would ever hear from or know a voice, so their real experiences can be lived. And the example I use is, as somebody with the title chief in front of my name for 11 years, if somebody's wants to work on reentry from going from incarceration back out to our communities, they're probably more likely to talk to me and ask me questions because of the title in front of my name than they would somebody that actually did it.
That's true.
That was locked up for 20 plus years and then now is back out in the community and doing really well. And to me, that's backwards.
Yeah.
Like most of what I know about reentry is from people who have reentered.
Yeah.
So why not talk directly to them? So I think the highlights for me are really getting those voices that wouldn't be heard otherwise. We've had doctors, we've had people that have been trafficked, we've had people that have spent decades in prison. So it's not all just law enforcement. It's really everything that the information that people need to try to make tomorrow better for all people. And that's not just criminal justice. That's all sorts of stuff.
No, I think you're absolutely making a mark in the podcast space and also in our community just to be able to share fair information and make sure people are able to get it, right? And get it from the experts. I probably owe you a redo when I came because I felt like I was absolutely horrible. I don't feel like I gave any good answers. I think I was just nervous. I didn't know what to expect. And now I'm in the opposite seat. So I owe you one.
Well, I tell you, I wouldn't mind doing it again because things have changed greatly since you were on. We have a new president and the world of education could be changing pretty significantly. And so I think that's of interest to a lot of people because education is, the broad term education is important to a lot of people.
100%. I will gladly do that. So let's take it back. So I was trying to think and remember when we first met each other. So I moved to Sacramento in 2010.
I want to say you were at Drexel when I first met you, maybe.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I was probably there, associate vice president at that time.
I don't remember where it was, but
Probably
for some reason
community
Drexel
event.
stands out in my head.
But I do remember when you and I both went through the bias training for American Leadership Program. And I know how huge that was for me, and I know for you. And I know you've been spending a lot more time in that space. How has that been going?
It's been going really well. And I continue to do a bunch of history research that I intertwine with largely what we learned in ALF. And I took another course through ALF too. So I think it's going really well. I think it's an important part of how we make tomorrow better. We need to understand how our brains, our bodies work. We need to understand the impact of history on that. And so I think it's going well.
No, I think you're doing phenomenal stuff.
The landscape's changing though, so we'll see how it goes forward.
Oh my goodness, the landscape is changing extensively, right as we sit here, and so I'm interested because I remember a lot of the work that you were doing in the community when you were an officer, and I'm wondering where did that come from? Was that something that you just kind of learned growing up in your community? You seem to be very much about the community.
Well, I wish I could say it was something that I explored on my own and I did a bunch of research or through my experience at work and everything, it taught me to value community and all that. But it comes down to one person, and that's my mom.
Okay.
So, when you're a kid, you don't have any choice where you live and who your parents are. And when every day they're concerned about everybody other than themselves, and they are like an icon in the community. There's people at your door all the time. They're helping anybody that needs help. They're not looking for any attention at all. That was my mom. And so I got drugged to, I didn't appreciate it as a kid, but when I talk to parents and kids, I say, your kids act like they don't appreciate it. I definitely acted like that. I acted a fool as a kid.
I think both of us did.
And in certain years, in my teenage years, the disrespect I gave to my mom is my biggest regret in my life, and will always be because I can't change it. But I got drugged to community meetings. I got drugged all sorts of places, and I had no use for any of it. But you're still in it, You're still witnessing it. It's still sinking in to your brain. And eventually when you mature and grow up, you realize that's what you love to do. And then when you think, well, where did this come from? Well, when you think about it long enough, you know exactly where it came from. That's what you witnessed every single day in your house.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. So obviously, doing some research, I understand that you've experienced a lot of tragedy early in your life. And I'm wondering, how has that affected you and kind of your role potentially one day going into law enforcement?
This episode is brought to you by Systems to Solutions. Think smarter, work better. Welcome to Systems to Solutions.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I've even read stories about myself that said getting arrested when I was 16 is what made my decision to go in law enforcement. Well, that's not true. None of my experiences made me want to go into law enforcement.
Okay.
I got into law enforcement 100% by accident.
Oh, wow.
And my whole intention was to get out once I graduated college. So none of my experiences made me want to be a police officer.
Okay.
But I think my family and growing up experiences is what is the entire core of my beliefs as a police officer. So my biological father was African American from Shreveport, Louisiana, and as a teenager moved to West Oakland.
Oh, wow.
My biological mother, he was black, and my biological mother was white from the Humboldt area.
Okay.
And they met in college at Humboldt State. I don't know why he went to Humboldt State in the 60s after going to Clemens High School in Oakland. It's like,
wow.
There was not very many black folks at the school, but he could get along anywhere. And I met him once I figured out I did research and found out who he was, and have a great relationship with my biological father's side of the family. But the crux of the story is that my biological mother came to Sacramento somewhat secretly. Like, I think her parents knew she came here, but they did not know she was pregnant.
Oh.
And they definitely doesn't sound like they knew the father was black.
Oh, my goodness.
So I'm assuming that's part of what her motive for giving me up for adoption at birth was, because later I kind of figured out who they were and attempted to contact them, and there seems to be some sort of issue. I don't know the whole thing because I've never actually talked to him. People I know have talked to him. Maybe there's an issue with who my father was because of his race.
Okay.
But the interesting thing is, so I get placed up for adoption, and 3 months later, my mom and dad adopt me. Both my mom and dad are white from non-diverse communities. My mom is from Painesville, Minnesota, a farming town. If you Google it now, it's like population 1,200.
That's like white.
Yeah, she didn't see a black person until she was a teenager.
Oh, my goodness.
And then my dad is from a place that they call a village. They don't even call it a city, in Nebraska. And my guess is, because he died when I was 5, but my guess is he probably didn't see a black person or too many black people till he joined the Navy and fought in the Korean War. Those two people end up in Sacramento and adopt a black son. And then my dad dies when I'm 5, and my mom moves to Oak Park. And so I'm raised in Oak Park. So I always say that my mom and dad adopting me saved my life, because at that time, the whole reason my mom adopted me was, one, she wanted 3 children, and she didn't want a third one biologically because my sister, who's my sibling closest to me, 4 years older than me, and then my brother's 5 years older than me, she was born with hydrocephalus, so she has physical and mental disabilities. So the doctor said that the chances of a third child having disabilities was greater. So my mom didn't want to take that chance. And she read a magazine at the time that said that the hardest children to place in permanent homes were kids with disabilities. Well, my mom already had my sister, so she didn't want to do that. The second hardest, this is the 60s, was mixed race kids.
Yeah.
And so she said, I want to adopt a child that might not otherwise get adopted. So the odds are I would have bounced around from foster home to foster home. And if we look at the statistics in education and prison and criminal justice, it's filled with foster kids.
Absolutely.
So, and I still got arrested, even though I had a family. So I can only guess I got arrested a lot more if I didn't have that stability. But even with that, during the adoption process, the caseworker would tell my mom, why do you want to adopt a black son? You shouldn't adopt a black son.
They asked her that?
They told her that.
They told her that?
It wasn't a
Oh,
question.
my
They
goodness.
told her that. And the reason was they said she should want to adopt a white girl with, I think my mom even said, they said blonde curly hair. And one of the reasons they gave was because a girl would not keep her name. In other words, when she got married, she would change her name to her husband's name. And if they adopt me, a black boy, I'm going to keep their name. So the ironic thing is, the thing I value more in my entire life, other than maybe my daughter's, is my last name. And I won't do anything to besmirch my mom's last name, or my mom and dad's last name. And the other thing is, I'm the only one in my family with kids. So the name lives with me.
Oh, wow.
So now they're daughters.
And you have girls.
Maybe they change their name when they get married. So that might be the end of the name. But it's just crazy at the times then and what actually turned out. Here's a person, a caseworker that's supposed to be in charge of giving a child a good home, and she tried to stop it. But because of the strength of my mom, she couldn't. And then I'd have, right in front of me, I'd have people, for example, in the black community, come up to my mom and tell her she basically ought to be ashamed of herself for adopting a black son, because how can a white woman raise a black son? Whew. And I would be thinking, like you see them commercials now, you're like, I'm standing right here. I can hear you tell her that. And I was a mama's boy.
Gotcha.
So because my mom was there, I was being respectful, but like I wanted to box. Like,
it's a problem.
That's my mom you're talking to. But so the ironic thing, even when I was a kid, this would be like, the first time I can remember something like that was about 8 years old. And I'm thinking, my biological mother was white. Yeah. So if I lived with the woman that gave birth to me, I'd be living with a white woman.
White woman. Yeah.
Why would you tell my mom that? So all these factors, and yet my mom didn't waver one bit.
That's incredible.
And I was a problem for my mom. I was not an easy son to raise. So I guess we'll put it like that.
So when you say you weren't an easy son to raise, why? Do you think you were you rebelling because maybe she was white, or what were you feeling, especially growing up in Oak Park? And I don't know the dynamics of Oak Park back then. Was it a predominantly black neighborhood back then as well?
Yeah, I mean, statistic-wise, I don't think it's been a predominantly black neighborhood for a very long time.
Okay.
But it was considered a black neighborhood.
Considered a black,
okay. Culture-wise. And it was the most violent neighborhood in Sacramento, probably neck and neck with El Paso Heights at the time. It's changed a lot. I mean, it still has some of the same challenges. But near the end of my high school years was the beginning of the crack epidemic, which made it even worse. And it was already, I mean, to see violence was not unusual.
Sure.
But Oak Park helped raise me. I mean, back then, I think it's changed these days. I don't even think I would do this these days with my own kids if they were little right now. But back then, just like you hear everybody talking the good old days, like it truly was. I knew everybody on my block. I knew everybody on the block across the street from us. My mom knew everybody. We all knew everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew everybody. Yep. I could tell you today, if we went to my neighbor, I can tell you the neighbors across the street from me, and I can tell you the neighbors on both sides of me, and that's about it.
Wow.
But when I was growing up, you knew the whole block. You knew everybody, their mom, their kids. And my good friends that are still my good friends today, their parents were like my parents.
There we go.
And so I don't ever recall getting whooped by my friends' parents, but you did what they said.
Yeah, you listened.
And they had my mom's phone number easily accessible. So growing up in Oak Park, I had a blast. So I think you get used to your surroundings. Mm-hmm. And I've always said this, I think the difference between that and some of my friends that got into trouble is I experienced all the trauma, if you will, that came outside in a community like Oak Park. But inside my house, unbeknownst to me, was very healthy and helped me deal with any of that trauma. So I don't even.
That's great.
I witnessed my first murder when I was 9 years old.
9?
And most people would go, yeah, I just got, my mom was the choir director at our church, and so she only allowed us to watch 1 hour of TV a day, and the TV was in the kitchen.
Okay.
And back then we didn't have remotes. So you
Gotcha.
sat right in front of the TV.
Absolutely.
And so I would run home right after church to watch the Raiders on TV.
Okay.
And so it wouldn't count as my hour because my
Everybody
mom
loved
wouldn't
the
know.
Raiders.
She wouldn't know.
Okay.
So my brother and I had come home right after church, and we hear some gunshots outside, and we look out the window, and we both witness a guy get shot probably 8-10 times in the middle of the street.
Wow.
And there was a liquor store right across the street from our house, so he collapses in the doorway of the liquor store. And at 9 years old, I run down the front steps of our house, run across the street, and I essentially stand over this guy and watch him die.
Oh my goodness.
And then 2 years later, my mom picks me up from middle school and takes me to the Superior Court, which is still the same one to this day that I've testified as an officer. And at however old you are in middle school, 11, 12 years old, I testified in a murder jury trial. The only witnesses were my brother and I.
Oh my goodness.
And many would think that, oh, that's a life-changing moment for you. And maybe it was subconsciously, but I don't recall any trauma from that.
Really?
I was probably playing out in the street 2 minutes later. So I think the fact that my mom and our family was a very healthy environment.
Inside.
With a lot of, it had drama. My sister had disabilities. My brother's 5 years older than me. So, people thought it was a foster home. There was so much coming and going because my mom remarried to my stepdad. That brought 2 other brothers. But it was a very healthy home. Whereas some of my friends, it wasn't so healthy. Some of them didn't even live with their parents, lived with their grandparents. My best friend growing up lived with his grandparents. And I was worse than him as a kid until he got to about junior high. His grandparents got a little bit older and just couldn't track him down like my mom could still track me down. My mom would walk in the middle of the park. We had to be home when the lights came on.
Yep, me too.
And this time of year, the lights come on pretty early.
Oh yeah. So she
And
looking for you.
so all my friends would be out in the park still playing ball. And
Time to come in.
dog, there goes your mama pulling up. I'm like, oh, gotta go. Get out of here. She didn't care. And back then, believe it or not, I had some friends who they could be out as long as they wanted. They could be out all night long, and their parents, and I don't fault their parents. Their parents were dealing with their own demons, right? And so they just had so many things going on, they couldn't do what my mom did. And I used to think as a kid, their parents loved them. Their parents trust them.
They can be
like, look at their mom.
play.
They let them, they trust them. My mom don't trust me at all. Like, that's
remember
messed
that
up.
same
And then
feeling.
once I got older, I'm like, oh, thank God. Thank God for
right.
my mom. Because I would have gotten in trouble.
Yeah.
I would have
She was able to
100% gotten
regulate
more
that.
trouble than I already did.
That's big. So I'm interested in this whole journey, having a white mother and having a black father, being raised in a black neighborhood, and for the sake of where we are in society and time, everybody, I'm assuming, identifies, and maybe you identify. Do you identify as being black, or do you identify as saying, now I am mixed race?
Well, if somebody gets an in-depth conversation, I'm black and white. But
Gotcha.
just, off the cuff, what are you? Black.
Black. Yeah.
And what's interesting is, I think most adopted children go through this. Like my rebellious stage was probably a little magnified because I wasn't just rebelling as a teen, but I was also rebelling against being adopted. I can remember walking around Sacramento at a bus stop because I'd either ride my bike or take the bus to Kit Carson because we lived pretty far away from Kit Carson. And I would, if I saw a black dude walking down the street, I'd like, I wonder if that's my dad.
Wow.
And I always wanted, and like people would always ask me, you love your mom so much. Why do you want to find your biological father and mother? And I'm like, I can't explain it. I just I want to see if I look like them. Because I always felt like
More pieces to the
I
puzzle.
want to look like my family.
Yeah.
And I always wanted kids, and I want my kids to look just like me.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's weird stuff that I think adopted kids think about that biological kids don't.
Yeah.
And what's funny is people used to always say my mom and I did look alike. And I think we probably did because of your environment. Right? I probably talked like her.
Wow.
And we would always laugh. They're like, oh, you guys look just alike. We'd look at each other and laugh because they wouldn't know I was adopted, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And so, but my biggest regret that I mentioned earlier, when I was from about 14 to 16, maybe 15 to 17, was probably the worst time in my life in terms of relationship with my mom. I mean, we would fight every day, or I should say I would fight with her.
Okay.
She was always very calm. And I would tell her things like, "You're not my mom. Take me back to the adoption agency."
Are you serious?
And now, especially now that I have kids, if one of my daughters said that to me, I would be devastated. So I can only imagine what my mom was feeling outside of my view and how, maybe she was crying, but in my view, she was steadfast. She was like, "You're my son. I don't know where you want me to take you. Where do you take your son? You're my son. No, you're not my mom. Yes, you are."
Oh my goodness.
I mean, daily for like 2 years.
So have you ever went back and kind of done some counseling or therapy around any of that and kind of worked through some of that and try to figure out a little bit more where that's coming from?
I
just grew up?
And my mom actually did take me back to the agency one point, and she's like, "Look," because I tell her, "You're not telling me everything. There's more information you're keeping from me." And my mom has always told me I was adopted and always told me, whenever if you ever want to find your parents, whatever I can do, I'll do. And she would always tell me, as far as I can remember, 2 years old probably is when she first started telling me that. And so one time she finally goes, "Look, if you want me to take you back to meet a counselor at the agency, I will take you back there. You can ask them all these questions you're asking me." So one day I was so pissed because I was immature. I said, "Yeah, let's go." So she took me. It was right by the YMCA, right at 21st and W.
Okay.
So I go back with the counselor lady all by myself, and she pulls out, she had like a file on her desk. And the whole time I'm thinking, I'm going to snatch that file, take off running. Because she's not telling me either. She in cahoots with my mom. She's not going to tell me everything. I know my biological mother and father's name is in that folder. And if I had it, I could find them. And so she told me everything that was all that my mom had already told me.
Still were like, "Let me
and
get
I'm
this
like,
folder."
"Nah, I'm going to snatch that folder." Now, I never did, and we went home. But then one day, I had put, they have a system where you put in a card with the agency organization, and if your biological parents put in a card, then they match you.
Okay.
So I had done that when I was like 18.
Okay.
And 4 or 5 years later, I hadn't heard anything, so that wasn't working. And then I happened to be working, I was a police officer by then, and I was working this off-duty job, and one of the gals that worked at the nightclub that I was working at, her full-time job was working at the courthouse in Yolo County.
Oh.
So I'm telling her my story about being adopted, and she just calmly goes, "Well, why don't you just go get your original birth certificate and find your biological parents?" And I'm like,
I can do that?
I don't have, there's no original birth certificate. I have my birth certificate. It has my mom and dad's name on it. And she goes, "No, you have another birth certificate with your biological parents' name on it." I'm like, "No, I don't." She goes, "That's what I do at the courthouse." You do, and if your biological parents or your adoptive parents request it, they have to give it to them. And I'm like, "Serious? I never knew that." So my mom happened to be in Minnesota at the time. I called my mom and I told her, and she goes, "As soon as I get home, I'll go right downtown Sacramento and get it." So sure enough, she did, and it was on microfiche, so we had to wait like a week or two.
Yeah, good old microfiche.
And she got it. It didn't have my biological father's name on it, but it had my mother's name on it, and it had my name, which her name her last name was McDonald. My last name was Wormsley. Now, if my last name had been Jackson or Johnson or something, I might never still have found my, but it was Wormsley, an unusual name.
Very much so.
And which was different than her name. So I'm like, that's got to be his last name.
Yeah.
So I always thought my parents were from Sacramento because that's where I was adopted.
Makes sense.
Neither one of them were from Sacramento. So I'm calling 411, nothing. So I start branching out, and I called down to the Bay Area 411, and they go, "Well, we have a Lawrence Wormsley," which was my name on the birth certificate. And I'm like,
"Really?
Oh my God." I froze. And I'm like, that's got to be him.
Yeah.
And that was like maybe a month before Christmas. So about 2
How
weeks.
How old are you now?
I'm 56.
No, back then.
Oh, 1992. So I was like, I don't know, 20, mid-20s.
Okay.
So I went and met him 2 weeks before, and it was probably the most nervous I've ever been in my life.
I bet.
I was like, I'm walking up to the door, go, "Please look just like me. Look just like me."
Yeah.
He opened the door. I didn't think he looked anything like me. But everybody says we look exactly alike.
So did he know you were coming?
No. So I had a friend of mine call the phone. That's a funny story. Call the number.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to put that kind of pressure, right? I'm gonna have a friend call, and if he is willing, then we'll connect.
Go from there.
So she calls, and he was a salesman at the time with his own company, and he was out of town.
Okay.
And his wife, like I call her mama, was home and did not like being at home alone. So the phone rings, and here's this woman saying, "Hey, is Larry Wormsley there?"
And she's like, going on.
"No, what's up?" And so she doesn't want to tell her.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm sure it sounded very strange. Yeah. She's like, "Well, I don't really want to. I want to talk directly to him about what I'm calling about. It's important." She's like, "What's good?" So she started lying to her. She said, "He's on his way home. He'll be home in an hour." I was working.
Okay.
So I would call her like every 10 minutes. "Did you get him? Did you get him? Did you get him?" She's like, "No, they said he's on his way home." So she would call like an hour later. Wow. "Is he there?" Well, he wasn't going to be home for 2 days. He was out of town.
Oh.
So we're blowing up this phone.
And
that's making her more nervous and more nervous.
What's going on? Yep.
And then eventually, a couple days later, she calls and he picks up. He had just walked through the door from out of town. And she says, "Do you know my biological mother's name?" And he's like, "No." He goes, "Look, I just got home. Can you call me back?" And so they call back. He goes, "I did. I knew somebody by that name when I was in college." And I'm like, and then by then I had figured out she's where she's from, up in Humboldt. And like that was 2 weeks before Christmas. And then 2 weeks later I meet, and it's a very large family. And I go down for Christmas and meet all my aunts and cousins and nephews. And then my mom became like I'd take her down, and
that's cool.
It was a really, I've never met anybody on my biological mother's side. She had passed away by the time I found out who she was. But I have some siblings on that side that I've never met, but on my father's side, it was pretty awesome.
With that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That is a powerful story. So I'm interested. I want to dive into some leadership. So you have been in some phenomenal roles and done some great things. So I'm interested in hearing a little bit about your leadership journey. Like, where did you learn how to lead when you were with the police department? Where did you learn how to lead when you were with the Sacramento Kings and so on and so forth? What was your leadership journey?
Well, I think I mentioned this earlier. I always just believed, well, I don't know that I always believed it, but as I got older, I believed it more and more because it's really what the lessons my mom taught, not through words, just through actions, that like you're always where you're supposed to be. And if you're somewhere where you think it's horrible right now and what the heck is the good Lord doing to you, then it's your job to figure out why you're here. What are you supposed to be learning right now? What is going on? So I've always kind of believed that to a certain extent and believed it more as I got older. I'd never planned on being a police officer to start with. I never planned on promoting. I definitely never planned on being a police chief. But I always wanted to make my own decisions, meaning I didn't want other people to make the decisions for me. So that's why I went to school. That's why I got my master's degree. That's why I went to the FBI Academy, all these different programs, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to move up, but I knew at some point if I did decide I wanted to move up, I had the ability to move up. Okay. And so I think I learned through a lot of mistakes. I mean, I had been in leadership positions my whole life. When I was in high school as a freshman, we had a black music director at Sac High. We had a top-notch marching band. We traveled all over the place, all over the country.
You played an instrument?
I played trombone for like 13 years.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Really?
Even in college. At Consumers, I played in the jazz band in college.
Look at that. I didn't know that.
I couldn't play a lick now. But our band director was black.
Okay.
Very intimidating, very strict, and expected a lot, especially from the black students. And he and I clashed, but I learned a lot from him. But he put me in a leadership role as a freshman over seniors. So
says something.
those are some tough lessons to learn
That
as the
says
seniors
something.
go, I ain't listening to you.
Right.
And we got sectionals today. Let's go. Who are you? You're a freshman.
But what about, it had to be something in you that he saw.
Had to
or
be.
people seeing in you, and have you figured that out
Every
today?
time. I didn't see it at the time at all.
You know what it
I was
is
like,
now?
why the heck? Well, the only thing I could imagine is they could see that I really cared. But there's times that the only reason I really cared is because my mom really cared, right? Like, I played saxophone when I was in 4th grade. My mom was music. My mom could play probably 10 different instruments. Wow, my grandmother was a music teacher. And so it was required that we play music. So in the 4th grade, I picked the saxophone. It's still probably my favorite instrument, although I was way better at trombone. And I was first chair because my mom made us practice. You had to practice 30 minutes a day. You had no choice. That was that was the way it was. And we took lessons. She would take us to like she took music serious. Like you couldn't half step with music in our house. Every single one of us played something. And so I was first chair. I was, like I said, I was very immature, and this will be an example of where this leadership journey goes at times. But I got a little arrogant. Like I'm first chair. I know everything. I'm in 4th grade.
What you gonna tell me?
I'm in 4th grade. You can't tell me nothing. Here's this woman that is the church organist. She plays guitar. She plays accordion. She plays clarinet. She plays everything, right? And very well, I might add. So she asked me, I come up for breakfast one morning. It's like probably 6 or 7 o'clock. And she says, hey, I didn't hear you practice yesterday. I'm like, oh, because I didn't. And she goes,
No.
what you mean you didn't practice? You're supposed to practice 30 minutes a day. And I'm like, well, I don't need to practice, Mom. And she goes, oh, you don't? Why not?
You said that?
Yeah. And I'm like, well, Mom, I'm first chair. I'm first chair in the saxophone section. I know all the music. What do I need to practice for? I already know it. And she goes, like I told you, she's always very calm. She says, take your saxophone to school today. You're turning it in.
Really?
And I'm like, what? She goes, if you don't respect music more than that, you don't have no right to play it.
That's a lesson.
Take the saxophone back.
That's a lesson.
I started crying. I ran down to my room, got my saxophone, went in the living room where our piano and organ and all. I mean, we had a music room in our house. And I practiced for like 45 minutes before I went to school.
I love it.
So I'm thinking that fixed it, right? We're good now.
We're good now. Everything is clear.
So it wasn't. I think it wasn't band day that day, so I wasn't supposed to take my saxophone to school. She goes, "Where's your saxophone?" And I'm like, "What you mean, where's my saxophone? We don't have band today. You're turning it in." I know, Mom. I practiced. She goes, "Are you listening to me? Turn your saxophone in." Never played saxophone again. I took it back up again near the end of my high school career. But I didn't play the rest of my 4th grade year. I didn't play any instrument my 5th grade year, and I took up trombone my 6th grade year.
So what did you learn from that?
I learned responsibility. Like there's consequences. Yeah. And my mom didn't yell and scream. She didn't get all loud. What the heck aren't you practicing? Right. It was just matter of fact. Like you either respect this or don't do it.
Or don't do it.
Right? And probably the biggest lesson, and I was young, and my mom had a couple rentals. And so this rental was kind of in Curtis Park, sort of. And there was a bunch of stuff in the backyard that needed to be cleaned up, wood and trash. And so we had this old beat-up van, and she hooked a little old beat-up trailer, and we're going to go load all this junk in this trailer. Okay. I'm like 8, and I was a mama's boy. So if my mom went to the store, Mom, I'll go.
I'm with you.
And so I didn't act like I hung on my mom's every word, but I did. I heard every single thing she said. I could probably recite it now to you word for word, but I didn't act like I was listening. And she's the only one that could devastate me. There's not another person in this world. Well, now my direct family could, but like you could say whatever you wanted to me. I wouldn't care. But if my mom said it to me, then we have a problem. And it was pouring down rain this day. And so my mom and I are loading this up. I'm hungry. I'm soaking wet. So I start throwing a fit.
Uh-oh.
Ma, let's go to McDonald's, get something to eat. I'm hungry. I'm cold. We do this later. She goes, we got work to do. Keep going. Yeah. And she just keeps loading. I throw a hissy fit. I go sit down in the alley on like a little stump or something, and I'm losing it. This is jacked up. I'm not cussing because I don't want to get beat down. And I sit there, and she just keeps working. And eventually, after probably 10, 15 minutes, I said, how much a fool am I sitting here and my mom is still working? Ooh. And I think that's probably the biggest leadership lesson I ever heard. Like, lead by example and keep going. You got work to do. The circumstance, you got to overcome everything. And so throughout the police career, I'm sure we'll get into some of it, but through some of the toughest times, it was keep working, do what you think is right, no matter what the consequences are. If you about ready to get fired tomorrow, if you make this decision, if that's the right decision, make it anyway. Let the chips fall where they may. Because that's what my mom did every day. She didn't care the consequences. People hated on her, all sorts of stuff, and she just kept going.
That's big.
Kept going.
So when you look back, speaking of your law enforcement career, when you look back on the things that you were able to accomplish, what were some of the things that you said, man, I wish I would have had a little bit more time. I would have maybe done this a little bit different, or I would have done this a little bit different.
Yeah, I think there were times both in Roseville and Sac that, I got a little arrogant after implement some, something, whatever it might be, any number of things, and start, the world has a way of humbling you.
Oh, yeah.
And
absolutely.
So you start getting a big head, like, I did that. I did that. And then I left Roseville to come to Sacramento, and that went away.
Yeah.
Like that program or that whatever, they disbanded it.
As soon as you left.
Yeah. And I'm like, so what good did I really do if some of that stuff? So one of my goals after some of those lessons learned was, how do you, if something is working and if something is doing good in the community, what do you have to do to make it sustainable? Yeah. Right? It doesn't matter that you created this great program. If it goes away 2 minutes later, then what good did it do? Yeah. And so if you have to change something, or if you have to humble yourself and whatever to make it sustainable, if it's working, then that's what you need to do. Yeah. It's not an ego thing. It's what is best for the community. And I never intended this to happen this way, but I was always kind of considered the community dude in the police department. Like,
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing because
that's a great thing.
That's what my mom would value.
There it is.
And that's what I learned how to value. But, some people are known as the SWAT guy or the tactics guy or the traffic guy or the, whatever. I was always known as the community guy. When they had a problem in a certain community, put him out there. Okay. He'll fix it. And so,
but that's a skill. I don't want that to be missed.
Yeah, it wasn't a skill that I built on purpose. It was bred into me.
It's just who you are.
Because I watched my mom do it. And so, some of those. So I also think that connection to the community is what got me and a large part of what got our department through some of the toughest times. I've always said that if I came from outside, like a lot of departments get chiefs from across the country, right? Like the Oakland police chief right now is not from Oakland, right? And that's very common. Chiefs, when they go outside for a chief, you could be from anywhere. I always say if that was me, if I had not been from Sacramento when we went through all the challenging times with Stephon Clark and George Floyd and some of those issues, I'd have got fired 2 years in, and things would have worked out differently. And it's not to say that somebody outside can't be a chief, because I felt like I did a good job in Roseville. But the reality is relationships is what got us through. And I wouldn't have had those relationships. Or if I did, they would have been new relationships, as opposed to 40-year relationships. As opposed to, I knew his mom, I know him.
I know everybody.
I always say, like in Del Paso, I worked in Del Paso Heights the vast majority of my career. And I think there's a lot of people in Del Paso Heights that don't look at me as a police officer. They look at me as Daniel. Because I played softball in my off time out there. I taught at Grant High School. I coached at Grant High School. And so you build those personal relationships as opposed to just an officer responding on a call. And I called on all of those relationships at different times through that. And it's definitely what got me personally through it. But I also think it helped greatly with our city not burning down.
I think that's huge. So I come from a place where community policing was really huge, but often you don't see people that represent that community that are policing that community.
Right.
Sort of like what you were talking about. Do you think that's something that's missing now in our communities? That to your point, they're hiring people that are from other states, other areas that actually don't know enough maybe about the community to help them flourish better?
Yeah, I could talk on that all day. But yeah, not necessarily hiring from like other states, but I think a big part of that is we get it wrong a lot. And by we, I don't mean just the police department. I mean as society, as a community, which includes the police department, we get it wrong most of the time. And this is what I mean by that. If I grew up if we're talking about Sacramento Police Department, if I grew up in Granite Bay, and then I go to Sac State and I become a police officer for the Sacramento Police Department, good chance I'm working either swing shift or graveyard as soon as I get out of the academy, because that's where I don't have any seniority. Yeah. So I'm gonna be working on one of those shifts because that's where most of the officers are. And if I don't have seniority, I can't get weekends off with day shift. And most likely I'm working in either Meadowview, Oak Park, or the Heights, because that's where most of the officers are, because that's where the call volume's at.
Okay.
And we will sit here and say, shame on you, you don't understand Del Paso Heights. Yeah, you're white, or you're rich, or you're this, or you're that. You don't understand. And we blame you. And my question is, okay, if you're from Granite Bay and your family is middle class, upper middle class, you have nice stuff, you have maybe a nice car, you have a pool in your house, who wouldn't want to grow up like that?
Sure.
Like, all of us would not like a pool in our backyard. Or so why? And how many of us have a choice of where we grew up? So we're sitting here blaming you for a life that I would want, and you had no choice about.
Sure.
As opposed to going, look, everybody has experience with Del Paso Heights if you grew up in the Sacramento community. There's a lot of people, like if you grew up in Grand Bay, don't have personal experience with Del Paso Heights, but you watch the news. Yeah. And the news covers Del Paso Heights incessantly. Yes, and it's always negative. Yep. Always negative. They never talk about the good. They never talk about Mrs. Hahn and what she does, or Mrs. Hill, or, all these people that I knew. Oh yeah. Right? They don't talk about those people. They're not making the news. They're talking about the shootings, the trafficking, all those sort of things. And it's sinking in, the whole bias in our brain. It's sinking in. So now I'm working there, and this is my belief about this neighborhood. That's not accurate. It's accurate for a very small percentage, but it's not accurate. And now we put you in there, and we're shocked when there's issues. We're shocked when maybe somebody pulls out a gun. Well, if I think everybody in this neighborhood is gangsters because that's what I see on the news, why wouldn't I pull out my gun?
Sure. Yeah.
Right? So to me, the responsibility is on the organization, the police department, and the community to realize this could be an issue. And then the next question should be, so what are we going to do about it?
How do we change it?
Right? I still want to hire this guy. He's a great candidate. But I need to give him experience in a neighborhood that I'm going to ask him to have a lot of authority in before he gets there with that authority. Yeah. And so, with me, like, I was always shocked, like, when I was at City College, some of the classes at the beginning of the semester, they'd have each student introduce themselves. So I'd always introduce myself. My name's Daniel Hahn from Oak Park. Like, I was very proud to be from Oak Park.
We neighborhood kids know about their neighborhood.
And people would always go, oh, how'd you get out? And I'm thinking, I still live there. What are you talking about? I still live at my mom's house. I didn't get out. What? And it was always shocking me, like, get out? What? Like, you act like I was in Boys in the Hood or something. Like, I love my neighborhood.
That's what it is.
But that is their view, because they're only viewing it from what they know.
The media.
Right? They've never hung out in Oak Park. They never saw Mr. Bozeman and Mrs. Bozeman, Miss Curtis, and all these people that I had the chance, because I lived with them.
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about. And so we did Walk in My Shoes, peace walks, and everything to give new officers experience with communities that they're going to work in. And so they get to meet the people, understand the culture that might be different than the culture of the neighborhood they came from. Doesn't mean it's bad or good. It's just different, exposure, right? And if you're going to work there, you need to
Understand.
Each neighborhood, that's why police departments now have different precincts, if you will, because what this neighborhood needs is probably not what that neighborhood needs. And each station needs to serve their neighborhood.
100%. So as we get ready to close this episode of Layers of Leadership, I think everything that you're saying ties directly to what you're doing with your podcast, A Way Forward. And so as we get ready to transition, are there any jewels or information that you would like to give our listeners in regards to leadership, your journey, and any recommendations of any books or podcasts besides A Way Forward and Layers of Leadership that you think will be beneficial to them on their journey?
Yeah, in terms of leadership, I would just say what got me through, again, is stuff that I didn't even know I was learning, that I learned from my mom. And there's a lot of other people that poured into me, that believed in me. I mean, the whole reason I went to Roseville is because I was told I had no future here in Sacramento.
Oh, my goodness.
I'd never dreamed of leaving. I'm the biggest homer you've ever met. And so I was told, like, as a captain, that was the end of my road. And out of the blue, the phone rings. City manager of Roseville. It's weird how things work. That believed in me more than I didn't think I could be police. I was like 42 years old. I didn't think I was qualified, equipped, intelligent enough to be police chief. And I probably wasn't. But he believed in me, and I grew into the role, right? So there's been a lot of people, even outside my mom, that believed in me. But the one thing that got me through the toughest times, in law enforcement, people, they would often ask, when you have tough decisions in terms of discipline, like maybe it's a termination, how do you do it? I'm like, it's easy. It's easy to me. I mean, it doesn't come without its challenges, and sometimes maybe you feel bad that the person's not going to have a check anymore, but it was typically pretty easy to me because I believed that right is right all the time. No matter what the circumstances are, right is right. So the hardest thing is to figure out what is right. What is the right thing to do in this circumstance? And whatever that is, do it, no matter what. No matter what. And sometimes the no matter what is a pretty big deal. Right? Like you might get fired for this. Well, what's right is right. I had discipline where all the managers in the department told me, you won't win this one. Like when they appeal it, you'll lose. I go, then I'll lose. Because the right thing to do is this. If the appeal process is inadequate and they give him his job back, then that's on them. But I'm doing what I think is right. And if they want to be something different, then that's on him. I have to look myself in the mirror at the end of the night and believe and live up to the last name that was given to me as a kid. So I would say right is right. And the other thing, and I just mentioned this to some young folks the other day, is I mentioned that the only person I listened to was my mom. And that's legit. Like my stepfather would tell me to do something, and I would tell him, go tell mom. And if she tells me to do it, I'll do it. I'd have knocked me out.
You couldn't have been my child.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't be my own child. That's why I didn't want any sons, because I'd have to knock him out. So the only person I ever let help me was my mom. And as I got older, I learned you got to let some people help you. And that's how I became chief. I let somebody help me that believed in me.
That's big.
And so what I see, especially from neighborhoods like I grew up in, like, we don't want people to help us. Like, I got this. Even if I'm being destructive to myself right now, I got this. And I'm like, I'm not saying let everybody help you, because there's a whole lot of shady people out there that they're really not trying to help you.
That's big.
But when you find out somebody truly cares about you, let them pour into you. Let them help you. And the last thing I would say about leadership, once you are a leader, once you do attain both the informal and formal leadership roles, you need to lead. Like, you got that authority for a reason.
Yeah.
Use it.
That's a big
and lift other people up. I know people lifted me up, and there is nothing I can do to repay my mom and the Oak Park community for what they did for me as a kid. So for the rest of my life, I will be trying to repay that, even knowing I can never get there. But it was done for me. So now that I have connections and I have authority in certain areas, I need to use that to connect other people, to help other people, to pour into other people the way people poured into me. And I think a lot of times, well, I shouldn't say a lot of times, but sometimes I see people that have attained success, they're stingy. They no, I ain't helping nobody. This is my stuff.
me.
And I think real leaders help other people.
No question. There it is. Well, this is a wrap of Layers of Leadership podcast. My friend and hot yoga partner.
I haven't seen you lately.
I'll be there. Chief Daniel Hahn. Thank you. I appreciate you, brother.